On the modern battlefield, the most dangerous enemy is not always the soldier in the opposite trench. More often, it is the environment itself. Rain turns roads into oceans of mud. Heat exhausts men and machines alike. But no force of nature is more ruthless to weapons of war than extreme cold. Sub-zero temperatures turn steel brittle, thicken lubricants into glue, drain batteries into useless dead weight, and freeze engines solid overnight. In winter warfare, even the most powerful army can be rendered helpless if its equipment cannot survive the cold. During the Second World War, the German war machine would learn this lesson the hard way. German weapons were marvels of engineering, precise, complex, and finely tuned. But that very sophistication became a weakness when exposed to brutal winters. Nowhere was this more evident than on the Eastern Front, where German vehicles froze in place, weapons jammed, and engines refused to start in the depths of the Russian winter. Precision had a price, and the cold collected it mercilessly. The American approach to war was fundamentally different. U.S. weapons were not designed to be delicate instruments of perfection. They were built with a philosophy closer to agricultural machinery than fine engineering. American designers valued simplicity, redundancy, and brute force reliability above all else. These weapons were meant to work in mud, sand, rain, dust, and most importantly, in the cold. They did not need to be elegant. They needed to function. Period. That obsession with reliability would be tested in some of the coldest battlefields of the war. In the frozen forests of the Ardennes during the Battle of the Bulge, in the snow-covered mountains of Italy, on the icy, wind-scoured islands of the Aleutian Chain in the North Pacific. In all of these places, American weapons proved that they could keep fighting long after others failed. These are the machines that refused to quit, the guns that never jammed, the engines that always started, the vehicles that kept moving when everything else froze solid. This is the story of the 10 most reliable American weapons in freezing cold conditions during World War II. To rank these legends of cold weather reliability, we are looking beyond raw firepower or battlefield fame. Instead, we are focusing on 3 key criteria. First, mechanical reliability. How well did the weapon function when temperatures dropped below zero? Second, doctrinal importance. How critical was this weapon's reliability to major cold weather campaigns like the Battle of the Bulge? And third, comparative advantage. How did its performance in the cold compare to enemy weapons that often failed under the same conditions? Before we begin the countdown, there are 2 pieces of American equipment that deserve special recognition. The first is the M1911A1 pistol. Designed by John Moses Browning, it was famous for its loose tolerances. In peacetime, that might sound like a flaw. In winter combat, it was a blessing. Dirt, ice, thickened oil, none of it mattered. The M1911A1 simply kept firing. While more tightly fitted pistols could seize up in freezing weather, Browning's design shrugged off the cold with ease. The second honorable mention is the M29 Weasel, a vehicle designed specifically for snow and ice. During the Battle of the Bulge, it became a lifeline. When trucks froze, tanks bogged down, and roads disappeared under snow, the Weasel delivered supplies, evacuated wounded soldiers, and kept units alive. Its cold weather performance was so expected that it almost feels unfair to rank it. It was built for this environment. Kicking off our list at number 10 is the M1919 medium machine gun, the workhorse automatic weapon of the U.S. Army. The M1919 was an evolution of John Browning's earlier M1917, which had used a water cooling system. but in freezing conditions, water jackets were a liability. Frozen coolant could crack components or render a gun completely useless. The M1919 eliminated that weakness entirely. It was air-cooled, with fewer parts to freeze and fewer systems to fail. Its simple, robust, recoil-operated action continued to function reliably in the brutal winter conditions of the Ardennes, laying down sustained fire when it was needed most. Next is the infantryman's personal artillery, the 60mm M2 mortar. Few weapons were as brutally simple as this one. It consisted of little more than a tube, a base plate, and a bipod. There were almost no moving parts to freeze, jam, or malfunction. As long as a soldier could clear the snow beneath the base plate, the mortar would fire. In the static defensive fighting of the Battle of the Bulge, this reliability was priceless. Mortar crews could deliver consistent, high-explosive fire regardless of weather, providing constant pressure on enemy positions when other weapons struggled. One of the most surprising entries on this list is the M2 flamethrower. Cold weather is usually the enemy of fuel-based weapons, but in this case, it worked in America's favor. The jellied gasoline and early napalm mixtures used by US flamethrowers became thicker and stickier in low temperatures. This increased both their range and their ability to cling to surfaces. In the frozen forests of the Ardennes, German bunkers and log-covered pillboxes provided excellent protection from artillery and small arms, but they offered no defense against a flamethrower. In winter combat, the M2 became an even more terrifying and effective weapon. At number 7 is the M9 bazooka, a significant improvement over earlier models. The original M1 bazooka relied on battery-powered ignition, which performed terribly in the cold. Batteries drained quickly, often leaving soldiers with a useless tube when enemy armor appeared. The M9 fixed this problem by using a simple trigger-actuated magneto-ignition system. Much like starting a lawnmower, pulling the trigger generated its own spark. This mechanical simplicity made the weapon far more reliable in freezing conditions, giving American infantry a dependable anti-tank capability during the Battle of the Bulge. Continuing our list at number 6 is the M7 Priest self-propelled howitzer, a complete weapon system built on the rugged foundations of the M3 and M4 medium tank chassis. Powered by a massive Continental radial engine, the Priest was deliberately overbuilt. Its mechanical systems were designed to endure abuse, neglect, and extreme weather. Most importantly, it carried the 105mm howitzer, a simple and proven artillery piece that functioned in virtually any conditions. In the freezing chaos of the Battle of the Bulge, the Priest ensured that American armored divisions had immediate, mobile, and all-weather fire support when static artillery alone was not enough. At number 5 is the M4 Sherman tank, a vehicle often criticized for its thin armor and narrow tracks, especially in deep snow. Yet when it came to cold weather reliability, the Sherman excelled. Its mechanical systems were simple, robust, and easy to maintain. This stood in stark contrast to its German adversaries. The Panther and Tiger tanks used complex interleaved road wheels that trapped mud during the day, only for it to freeze solid overnight, locking the suspension in place. Their powerful but temperamental Maybach engines were notoriously difficult to start in sub-zero temperatures. The Sherman, by comparison, started reliably and kept moving. In winter warfare, the tank that can move is the tank that survives. Number 4 belongs to the M1 Garand, the only standard-issue semi-automatic rifle used by any major power during the war. Its long-stroke gas piston system was deliberately overgassed, meaning it delivered more force than strictly necessary to cycle the action. In cold conditions, this was a critical advantage. As lubricants thickened and metal contracted, more finely tuned rifles could struggle to function. The Garand did not. Its powerful operating system punched through ice, grime, and cold with ease. This ensured that the American infantryman retained his rate of fire even in the harshest winter conditions, giving U.S. troops a decisive edge at the individual soldier level. At number 3 is the Douglas C-47 Skytrain, the ultimate logistical workhorse of the Allied war effort. Powered by two Pratt & Whitney twin Wasp radial engines, the C-47 was incredibly durable. These air-cooled engines were less susceptible to freezing issues than liquid-cooled designs, and the aircraft's simple, rugged construction allowed it to operate from rough airstrips in terrible weather. Its reliability became legendary during the Battle of the Bulge, when German forces encircled Bastogne. With ground routes cut off, flights of C-47s dropped food, ammunition, medical supplies, and winter clothing to the trapped 101st Airborne Division. Without the Skytrain's dependability in freezing conditions, Bastogne would likely have fallen. At number 2 stands one of the most feared weapons of the war, the M2.50 caliber machine gun. Often called Mar-Deuce, this was arguably the most reliable automatic weapon ever created. Designed by John Moses Browning, it used a simple, short-recoil operating system and famously loose tolerances. In peacetime, this lack of precision might seem crude. In the freezing cold, it was perfection. While tightly fitted machine guns could seize up as parts contracted, the M2's components always had room to move. Ice, dirt, and thickened lubricants mattered little. In the Ardennes, its heavy bullets could tear apart frozen log bunkers, disable vehicles, and dominate open ground. The M2 became the unshakable backbone of American firepower in winter combat. The number 1 spot goes to the most overlooked but arguably most important piece of cold weather equipment in the American arsenal, the M4 high-speed tractor. Unlike the other weapons on this list, its purpose was not to fight directly. Instead, it performed the single most critical task on a frozen battlefield, moving artillery. Built on a fully tracked, light tank-based chassis, the M4 tractor could haul massive guns through deep snow, mud, and ice when wheeled vehicles simply could not move. During the Battle of the Bulge, the war was ultimately decided by artillery. American forces survived the German breakthrough by rapidly concentrating overwhelming firepower against armored spearheads. That firepower could only be delivered because M4 tractors ensured that 155mm long-tom cannons and 8-inch howitzers could always reach firing positions, regardless of conditions. When roads disappeared beneath snow and ice, the M4 tractor kept the guns moving. When temperatures dropped and engines froze, it kept starting. Without it, American artillery dominance in the Ardennes would have collapsed. For its decisive, war-winning impact in the single most important winter battle of the war, the M4 high-speed tractor earns its place as the most vital and reliable American weapon in freezing conditions. 10 weapons, 1 philosophy: rugged, dependable, brute force reliability. From the simplest infantry mortar to the machines that hold the biggest guns, the American arsenal was designed to function when the environment itself turned hostile. Victory was not achieved through delicate engineering or theoretical perfection, but through weapons that worked every time they were needed. In the frozen forests of Europe and the icy wilderness of distant battlefields, American equipment proved that reliability wins wars. Which of these cold weather champions do you think was the most impressive? Did we get the rankings right? Let us know in the comments below. And for more deep dives into the machines that won the war, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.